There's a fish. That feels like a white. I think that's what we're looking for. Oh yeah. It's 25 degrees out, there's little to no wind. Rocks are iced over. A lot of the areas that don't typically have ice are smaller ponds, areas like that. It's very abnormally cold for this time of year. We're targeting white bass out here today. I'm hoping I don't have to jump around too much. These rocks are very, very slick. However, the baits we're gonna be working with are the shad pole. I got it in multiple colors. Seems like it would be a fun thing to catch these fish on. They relate heavily to crappie style baits. Also have a spark shad rigged up on another rod, something that can give me a little more distance out here if they are deeper. Our water levels are fairly high right now. These white bass can be pretty hard to find. So I'm really hoping this first spot is the spot that hits. Water is very, very high. These rocks are hard to navigate and they're slick too, they're icy. So we're starting out with the spark shad rigged on a 1/8 ounce jig head. I prefer that slower fall rate. We may have to switch over to a quarter to kind of cover more water and find these fish. I'm hoping they're sitting here today though. This spot is typically good for them in these conditions. These white bass are nomadic, so they move up and down our river systems chasing bait. If you can find an area where bait likes to sit, likes to school at, chances are you can find some of these fish if they're in your area. Our water level is very, very high today. Typically, when our water level is high, they like to sit right here. And we got one. Wow, that couldn't have been timed more perfectly. This very well might be a skipjack there. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, not what we're looking for today. Skipjack herring. Catch these all over the river this time of year. What's up, buddy? Nope, we're not eating you. Yeah, let's try that again. If we don't get bit within I'll say 10 minutes, we'll make a jump. These fish are typically not picky. You really don't have to coax them into eating most of the time. If they're there, they're gonna eat it. At least if they're there in the frequency we're looking for today. Trying to get some big ones to take home and cook up. All right, so spot 2. Decided to make a jump. Didn't take me too long to come up with that conclusion. We were just catching a skipjack in that other area. And it can be a bit of a nuisance. It's fun to catch fish in general, but when you're targeting a specific species and you can't keep your bait in the water more than a couple seconds, it gets a little bit annoying. Let's see if we have more luck over here at this spot. It has warmed up a bit since I've been out here, so that's nice. Or I'm just getting used to it. There we go. Whoa. That feels like a good one. Come on in. Come to me. Is that a largemouth? It's a giant skipjack, dude. Almost looks like a bass. Way out there. Alright, again, not the species we're looking for today. Great catfish bait, but we're not doing any catfishing. Chunk of one. Alright. And for whatever reason, this spark shad is not working. Take a look at the other baits I brought. This is an interesting one. I do have some round bends we can rig up. This doesn't work well, but the cycles just have such a better hookup rate when you're targeting these white bass. Well, let's give it a shot. There's a fish. Okay, that's our intended species. You guys have no idea how many skipjack I've had to go through to get this little guy on. He is not big enough to eat. Not even worth trying to flay up. You could eat them whole. I eat panfish that way sometimes, but if you're looking for some big old fillets, that's a good sign though. They're here. We just have to keep this bait down without getting torn up by a skipjack long enough to catch them. There we go. It's hard to tell. I think that's what we're looking for though. Nope. I gotta say these panfish assassin baits are incredibly durable. Alright, so here we are, spot number 3, and hopefully this is the one. There were so many skipjack in that area, I couldn't really keep my bait down long enough to target these fish, which tend to sit lower in the water column. At least that's what I've found. There's a fish. That feels like a white. I think that's what we're looking for. If it is, that's going to be an eater for sure. Oh yeah. Here we go. So this is our intended species today. And that's just about eating size. I'm not going to be too picky considering how difficult it's been to find these fish today. There we go, guys. Pretty one. Finally, man. I've been fishing around jumping spots for the better part of the last 2 hours. I caught one tiny little dink white bass, caught a dozen skipjack. This is what we're looking for today. So we're going to keep this white bass alive as long as we can. Keep it as fresh as we can, and if we catch some bigger ones, and we don't need that one, we'll be able to cull it. See if we can do that again on the panfish assassin. Oh, we definitely found him, man. We're on him now. It feels pretty tiny, though. Yeah, this guy's going to be too small to eat. Kind of mentioned before, what's not what we're looking for today. You can't eat these little guys. What you do is you cut the head off, you scale the fish, and you kind of pick the bones clean. Just cook it whole. I do that with panfish sometimes when there's not a lot of meat on them, but I know we can do better out here, so we're gonna just toss him back. Only need 2-3 good fish. I'm just kind of letting my bait drift with the current a little bit, get out in this area, and I'm slowly kind of popping it in. Seems to be the method right now. There we go. Decent one. This might be our second eater. Let's see what we're working with. Oh yeah, she'll eat. That's a good size one. Beautiful, man. That's about the that's the size I go for. Eating wise. Give me that back. Oh, we took part of my tail. There we go, that's our second eater, man. Good looking fish. This is about the size I go for. They get a lot bigger than this, but we're lucky to have this one on, considering how tough the bite's been today. In there with your friend. There we go. He's too small. Man, them dorsals are sharp. Their gill plates are razor sharp as well. Kind of, but I gotta be a little careful handling them. Pretty too small. Well, it looks like we're only taking 2 home today, unfortunately. It was a tough bite out here. We're losing daylight. Now we're gonna bleed these fish. Very, very simple. You're gonna cut the gills. If you wanna get barbaric with it, you can finger pop it. Maybe if you forgot your knife, we're gonna get them on ice. We're gonna get them home and cook them up. So we're back at my place for the cooking / breaking down the baits portion of this video. Let me show you what we're working with. I do think these fish shrank on the way over here. It tends to happen sometimes, but I've cooked smaller. I'll put it that way. I have filleted smaller white bass. They're not bad. Now, ingredient-wise, actually, before we even get into the ingredients, we're doing something I've never done before. We are baking white bass. I intended on frying them. I got home and I realized I do not have a lot of olive oil. I don't have any vegetable oil. I'm very, very limited in the oil department right now, and I'm not trying to go to the store. So I've decided to bake these fish. And let me tell you, there isn't a whole lot out there on baking white bass. The 2 recipes I could find completely contradicted themselves. So time-wise, heat-wise, that sort of deal. But we're gonna make do. We're gonna try to make the best out of it. Now, let me show you seasoning wise what I've selected today. I have the Louisiana fish fry. We have white pepper, onion powder. If you've never had white pepper before, I highly recommend it. It's very, very potent. It adds kind of a smoky touch. Olive oil, my limited supply. It's kind of bougie. This is some expensive stuff right here. And we got some salt. So I've mixed all those seasonings together in this little pan right here. We're basically gonna pour some fish fry in here and kind of mix that in with it. Now, let's get to these fish. So before we start filleting up these bad boys, we're gonna preheat our oven. One recipe said 375, the other said 400, and they had somewhat similar cook time. So we're gonna go about 385 right there in the middle. I'm gonna start out by scaling these fish. So basically, you can use a descaling tool if you have one. You can use a knife. We're gonna use a spoon. I find that works better. That's my preferred method, really. And it can get a little bit messy. Pretty simple how you're gonna do this. You're basically gonna go against the scale. So you're gonna take your utensil, whatever you choose to use. Like I said, I prefer the spoon. And you're gonna run the opposite way that the scales run. So you're gonna go towards the head. Go. It can be messy, that's why I like to leave a little water in the sink. I kind of do it somewhat submerged. Tends to help just a little bit. So the fish are descaled. Now let me show you what we're working with. I got one on the cutting board right now. This little chubby fella, this is the smaller of the 2. Actually, I already filleted the bigger one. Now we are going to be using 2 different fillet knives. You don't even need a fillet knife. You don't need 2. It's a luxury I have right now. I used to do this with a kitchen knife, so it can be done. It is possible. However, these work a little bit better. We're going to start out with this 5-incher. It's stouter. It's sharper. Very, very stiff blade. Now this is by Badium. If you are curious about Badium knives or the gear they sell, backpacks, shirts, that sort of thing, you can use my code. I'll drop a link in the description. You can save yourself 20% on all of their stuff. So it is one of our sponsors here on the old Kentuckessee Angler channel. Essentially, I'm going to start out with this blade. I'm going to run it right under the pectoral fin at a 45-degree angle. Then I'm going to make some cuts up the back, right down where that dorsal is. Pop through right out the tail. Then we're going to run the old Rapala. Everybody owns this knife. Every grandpa has it in their arsenal. And we're going to run that right over the rib cage. I like it for that. It is flexible. It works very, very well for that. You're going to want to feel it pinging off those ribs so you can get as much meat as possible, as these fish aren't huge. The fillets aren't very big. Now, I'm not going to show the actual fillet process on the channel, excuse me, because we run a family-friendly channel, and I don't know what I can show without getting an 18+ rating. So it is what it is now. And like magic, we have our fillets ready. Now let me tell you, you don't get that much meat off of these fish, at least the size that we caught today. Now these aren't bad. That'll do, it'll eat. Obviously I'm gonna make some sides with it. I have to say, for one, just eating for me, I like to have 4 fish. So I'd like 8 of these. So typically I use an egg wash when I am breading these fish. However, we're just gonna use oil. Both the recipes I looked at only used oil, so I don't know if it's gonna kind of throw the eggs for a loop if I put them in the oven. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, it's my first time doing this, so we're just gonna coat these bad boys up, toss them in. There we go. In with you. Got our seasoning mixed in there with our fish fry. Now this is part of the recipe that I'm kind of nervous about. So the lady I watched actually cook these used a glass pan. I don't have one of those. I'm pretty limited in my pan selection, so hopefully this does. So I got them in the oven. We're gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. That's kind of a happy medium in between the 2 recipes I was looking at. We'll see how they turn out. I got my fingers crossed, man. We're using a metal pan instead of a glass one, and we're kind of fusing together temperatures and timing for different recipes. It is what it is. If they end up burnt, I'll eat them burnt. Well, that fish is cooking. Let's get into the bait we were working today. So I caught the majority of my fish on this right here, the Panfish Assassin Curly Shad. I gotta say, I didn't intend on catching the majority of the fish on this bait. I almost didn't bring it with. I was searching for the shad poles. I thought that would really be the ticket. I thought that 3-inch spark shad would be a great fallback bait. They just didn't get it done. I threw these in my bag just kind of on a whim, and I'm certainly glad I did, because they absolutely got it done. As soon as I switched over, I started whacking skipjack on it. I ended up taking it to spot 3 with me, and we sealed the deal with a couple nice white bass. Provided us a nice meal today. So I'm really, really grateful I brought this bait. It's really simple. It's got a great design to it, kind of a thick head on it. It is a 2-incher. It weighs in at 1.48 grams. You throw that 1/8 ounce ball head I was working it on, it's sitting somewhere in the ballpark of 5 grams. It's durable enough. I've caught everything from panfish, from big bluegill to bass on it. Just an all-around great multi-species lure. Between the fish I showed on this video and about a dozen other skipjack, I only went through 2 of these baits. That's how durable it is. The one issue I ran into was having a white bass nip off the tail, but that sort of thing will happen. Anyhow, guys, awesome bait. Let's go check on our fish. All right, my friends, moment of truth. Let's see if these fish turned out. They look good. First look looks good. Let's get these plated up. Now I have to make a salad. I was intending on making potatoes with these, but oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that. All right, let's plate these bad boys up. All right, so I got these fish plated up and they look absolutely phenomenal. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, consider subscribing. It really does help push the channel. Let me give you a look at this meat we're working with right now. It is flaking up. It looks absolutely delicious. I'm gonna whip up a salad, enjoy this fish. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and get some nice fish on, my friends. Peace.